to have one of golf's luminaries in the sports turf space with us today, academic, author, global speaker, Dr. Thom Nikolai. Thom, great to see you, and thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. This is fun. The only way this could be better if I was actually in Australia, but instead I'm at my son's house taking care of him after surgery. So I'd much rather be in Australia, but that trip's coming in about 2 years.
It is a pretty special place down here. We must say we're pretty lucky.
Yes, you are.
But Thom, you've been a great friend to Tru-Turf over many years, and it's always great when we can catch up in person, generally around the turf shows over in the US. But we've certainly appreciated your insights and commentary on the benefits of rolling. And we caught up in Phoenix most recently at the Golf Industry Show, and it was great to hear the work that you're continuing to do up at Michigan State there. Tell us a bit about your journey through your life in turf, because you've been around the game for a little while now, and I know you're starting to look to maybe slow down, but I don't know if that's within your DNA to slow down too much, is it?
That's really good. Yeah, I've been talking about slowing down, and my friends keep telling me I'm doing more and more.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I'm slowing down mentally, I think. I don't know. Anyway, very fortunate. I started off in the golf industry working for, wow, this is really pretty cool. I worked with two twin brothers that at a golf course I learned to play on called Lilac Brothers Golf Course. And their claim to fame was they built, oh gosh, world famous golfer. Walter Hagen.
Walter Hagen.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about Walter Hagen.
The Lilac Brothers made Walter Hagen's clubs. And they then built their own golf course of like 7,200 yards. And by the time I worked for them, they were in their mid-70s, and I was the only other person on the crew. Yeah. And the stories I would get from those guys were just incredible, and that sort of just led me on my journey into golf. And then working at places like Oakland Hills for the U.S. Open back in 1985 on the crew, was the superintendent for 5 years, assistant superintendent for 5 years before I got into doing turfgrass research, which kind of just happened by mistake, but it worked out that way.
Yeah. And it's an interesting, you've got to have the mind for it or the desire for it. And there's only a certain number of people that can get into that research side of things, but it's obviously something that you've just been very passionate about and been able to lead the industry in some of this commentary on what's the best things to do with turf grass.
Oh, thank you for the kind words. And if there's anything that I think helped me in the way I look at it is the fact that I worked on a golf course for so many years. And there's others in the industry that do what I do that have spent considerable time working on a golf course, and it makes you look at it differently if you actually know how the course was managed and how you'd want to set things up. And that's really what I naturally looked at just because of my background, just the way it worked out. And that's what kind of drew me to doing rolling research back in the early 90s, when everyone knew that rolling was bad because no one had ever researched it. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Exactly right. And it's really now, I suppose, rolling's now becoming part of the mainstay of course maintenance and the preparation, not only the preparation, but the sustainability around the golf course as well.
I think it's the most important mechanical practice there is. I think it's the one, given we have to mow, okay. But I would get into discussions with people about rolling is so detrimental to the turf grass, and I would argue, well, actually the thing that's most detrimental to the turf grass is mowing, but we do it anyway. It wants to be 6-7 feet tall. So we're really putting it under pressure, and rolling has basically been proven to do a lot to help the microbes in the soil, the health of the plant, and extremely important customer satisfaction. So when you put it all together, rolling is what you build is our machines that help the game of golf from a playability and health perspective. And I don't think there's another machine that does that.
Yeah. And that I suppose early 2000s, almost 20 years ago, or a bit under 20 years ago, that got you to look at the top 10 reasons to roll golf greens, lightweight roll golf greens. And when we caught up in Phoenix, we talked about, well, you know, they're just as relevant today as they were 20 years ago, and a great opportunity, I suppose, to talk about, you know, the refreshing of those reasons. But yeah, I suppose from your point of view, the you know, what you did back then is just as relevant today.
Yeah, but thank you for that discussion in Phoenix. That was very awesome for me because you pointed out something that was very relevant, which is um, the younger superintendents don't really care about data in the 1990s and early part of the century. So we've gone on a journey. At the end of my career, I'm kind of go back to how I started and redo that research as much as I can. I've been getting emails from younger superintendents again asking me about rolling, and asking me to compare machines. And I did do a study back in, I think, 2002 and 2003, somewhere in there, where we had 5 or 6 different companies put in their machines. And that, I think, only happened because rolling wasn't in vogue quite yet. And so everyone was like, oh, sure, let's get involved. I think if I were to try and get everyone to do that now, I'd get a lot of, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But in any event, with Tru-Turf, redoing some of those old top 10 reasons to roll, and looking at some new ones as well. I'm kind of insane. I live up here in Michigan, and we get snow, we get winter, the grass goes dormant, and I've started a study this spring. I'm sorry, it wasn't spring. It was midwinter. And I told my technician, every day that you can, every single day that you can, when there's no snow or there's no frost, I want you to go out and roll the greens. And he thought I was insane. And I said, I want you to take moisture readings. I want you to take temperature readings. And I want you to take green speed readings. And part of the reasoning behind doing it, asking him to do that, was, one, it hasn't been done, so why not? Two, wondered if it would have any impact on snow mold. And we didn't end up getting snow mold, so I don't know the answer to that. But what we did get was, lo and behold, it held more moisture. And that can be important because of winter desiccation. Which is actually more common than, the plant drying out when there's barren soil and the wind's whipping. Winter desiccation can be worse than snow mold. So in any event, we did a study, and went into the spring or late winter when golf courses now open, because of the miracle of COVID and everyone wants to play golf all the time.
Yeah.
People are getting out of the course earlier, and we found using your 700, is that right?
70, RB70, yeah.
RB70, using that roller. And what we did was double roll every day that we could on dormant turf. And a lot of golf courses open before they mow now and let people come out and play. And we increased our speeds by up to 3 feet just by doing that. And then the big surprise was then I have to send you pictures. Then we mowed the plots, and when we mowed them, the rolled plots greened up. I mean, they greened up so fast, it was incredible. And part of that may be the moisture holding content, but we're going to look more into other things. So we'll continue this study the next couple of years. But so that could be an add-on, dormant rolling. We're going to keep looking at that one.
Absolutely. But that's the thing, I suppose, with rolling. There's so many different applications, and let alone the top 10 or the expanded top 10 or the top whatever it becomes.
I really think I have about 16. I just put them into 10. Yeah.
Yeah. But but they're all valid reasons. I suppose as people are looking, let alone around the customer satisfaction, it's about the health of the plant at the end of the day, and that has so many other spin-off benefits from the rolling, not just that you've got a good surface to smooth and true surface to putt on, but it's about those disease elements that are negated, all those other things that flow through that mean your costs are also going down in relation to the maintenance of your golf course.
Yeah, I can't think of any. I mean, there's nothing else that has the benefits to turf grass like a roller does, and it is fun. And I have to admit that when I set out on my journey and started doing rolling research, I started doing it pretty much the same time as two other gentlemen did it, and both of them, the difference between them and myself is they did it, were afraid to, they didn't see the benefits. They were spraying their greens so they wouldn't get disease. They were, and I wasn't doing that kind of thing. And part of the reason is I actually thought, like everyone else did, that it would create more disease. I mean, that was my thought process. You read research books or the turf grass disease books, and they all said things like, dollar spot, the #1 disease in the world on turf grass stands, on bent grass anyway, is spread by mechanical practices. Therefore, it stands to reason a rolling is going to spread the disease. And when we found that it did the exact opposite, I was stunned. And I thought I would only see it like 1 year. I thought it was a fluke. And I've seen it like 30 straight years now.
Yeah.
It's pretty consistent. And we now know why that is. And we know that it's because we've increased bacteria populations in the soil. And if there's any listeners, maybe there's a golfer listening or something that doesn't know this, but almost every single turf grass disease is caused by a fungi. And so by increasing the bacteria populations, what we're basically doing is fighting something that may be antagonistic to the fungi that causes the disease in the soil. Or it may be just as simple as we're increasing the population of bacteria, which would fight for the same amount of food that's in the soil. And so the fungi that causes a disease can't get to it because the bacteria population is so severe. And we also know that some bacteria actually help put nutrients into the plant. So when you put it all together, more bacteria is a good thing, which is why even chemical companies now are looking to kind of experiment more and more with bacteria and getting them into the plant as opposed to spraying traditional pesticides, which I'm not anti-pesticide, but I think all of us are anti-waste. And if there's a better way to do it, let's do it. And there's one of the big things with the roller. When I say anti-waste, one of the things I mean by that is budgeting or money. And we do know that rolling, great study was done by John Sorokin at the University of Tennessee back in, early part of this century. And we looked at budgeting and found, if you rolled every day and mowed every other, you could save up so much money through the course of a year that you could, at that time, buy a roller. Now, rollers cost more now, but so do mowers. And the truth of the matter is, mowers are so much better than they used to be. I mean, that's been the biggest game changer since I started playing golf in the early 70s, is how perfect mowers are, and the combination of mowing and rolling and skipping mowings to roll, but the perfection of both of those machines is changed the game for the golfer. And if there's any superintendents out there that are in their 60s or 70s, they know it changed the game for the mechanic and for the maintenance staff as well. Because mowers used to go out of sync pretty easy, and
that's right.
They're much better machines today.
Oh, no doubt. The technology that's gone into machines and let alone the knowledge that our superintendents and course staff have these days, is amazing. But the fundamentals are still remain the same. That the reel on a mower is still the same as it was when it was pushed around a paddock many years ago. But it's
That's true.
the technology that's gone into the sharpening the blades, and from companies like Bernard and all those out there that now mean you're getting a quality cut. You're not tearing the leaf; you're actually cutting it, and having those nice and sharp. And then obviously the rolling goes over the top is really where all the added value is coming in these days.
Yes, I really enjoy the fact that the reel on a triplex now, the reel motors are such that when they do the triplex ring, that they slow down on the inside and speed up on the outside to stop getting rid of triplex ring, which is something a lot of the younger guys probably don't even know what that was. But it was the blades all turning at the same speed, but the radius was different by 5.5 feet from inside to outside, and it caused gouging. And things just do keep getting better. I'm not one of those, and a lot of people all him and hum, and they watch the news too much probably, and they just lament how things are worse than they used to be. But I guarantee you, if you really take a look at history, almost everything is better than it used to be. In solving problems, sometimes we create new problems, but we're still solving problems, and then we'll solve those later. We're going to get to it. Don't lose sleep.
Exactly
right.
Good. Now we have been known for many years as the doctor of green speed, and I don't know whether we should now be more referring to you as the doctor of smooth and true. I suppose green speed's always a byproduct of smooth and true greens, but
Yes.
I suppose certainly for us, we look at the smoothness and trueness and how we can sustain that smoothness and trueness for longer during the day than obviously other brands out there. But I think there's a real, there has been a lot of, especially at club level. I'm a former club manager and sitting around greens committees where they're always talking about the speed of the green. But I've always advocated, and certainly now in this role, about making sure the greens are smooth and true, and then you have a consistency of speed that comes from that. So now with I know the USGA have got the GS3 ball out there, and you can now measure smoothness and trueness in greater detail. So it's interesting in your thoughts on speed v smooth and true.
The reason I got nicknamed the Doctor of Green Speed, that goes back to actually the staff at the GCSAA. And they started calling me the Green Speed Doctor. And I said, please don't do that. Please don't do that. And after a year, maybe 2 years, I said, I'll tell you what, you can call me the Doctor of Green Speed. And they said, why? And I said, because I like the acronym, which of course is dogs. And it's stuck. And this is good. Okay. This is something that I wish I could go on the Golf Channel and teach golfers, because it's out there, but no one really looks. The term green speed came around about the dawn of the 20th century when the Balata golf ball took over for the Gouda golf ball, and for the first time ever, the ball actually rolled on the green instead of bumped around. And then that's when people started using the words green and speed together. It wasn't until the 1936, 37, somewhere in there, Eddie Stimpson invented the stimpmeter, went out and measured some greens. Then he had the only stimpmeter in the world until the USGA decided to take his stimpmeter and modify it in the mid-70s. Now, this is the part that I wish I could tell everyone. And I recently did this at my home course. In 1976 and 1977, the United States Golf Association visited 1,500 clubs and measured the green speed on their greens. The average green speed in 1976 and 1977 was 6 feet 6 inches. 6 feet 6 inches. Now, to show you how much the game has changed, just about a month and a half ago, before I went to a conference, I photographed myself taking green speed or stimpmeter measurements in a fairway. The fairway had not been mowed that day, and there was 0.3 of an inch of water that fell on it the day before. and I got a fairway speed of close to 6 feet 6 inches.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Now, the reason I say that is speed is awesome, and speed was kind of out of control. And the reason I took the name, or was given the name Doctor of Green Speed, was because I basically, along with Mike Morris, superintendent, Crystal Downs Country Club, begged people to use a snip meter for something other than killing snakes or holding the door open.
Yeah.
And when we started doing our show, our GCSAA show, which we ended up doing all around the world, taking control of green speed. When we started, we asked roomfuls of people how many people use it, and no one's hand would go up. 10 years later, we asked the question, and almost everyone's hand went up. And then we went, well, we can retire. We did our job. Because using a snip meter, you're right, it doesn't measure speed. It measures distance, which is all has to do with friction, which all has to do with smoothness and trueness. And without question, we can say a snip meter increases speed, but it doesn't. It makes the ball roll further, which really is smoothness and trueness. But we're only given the term green speed from the dawn of the 20th century, so I use it.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, exactly.
But it is really trueness and smoothness. And as far as USGA coming out with their golf ball, I've just ordered mine for the first time ever, which we will be using for our multiple rolling studies that we'll be doing the next 2 to 3 years before I leave.
Yeah, excellent. Another good friend of ours, especially on Twitter, John Riley from the Longboat Key Club, has been pushing out a lot of data on his smooth and true numbers. Now, it's been really interesting to see how it's also changed his maintenance practices in relation to what he's doing down there. So it's a really interesting journey I've been following. So at Turf Monkey Boy, if anybody wants to follow John on Twitter. He's pushing out some great information, not just alone about smooth and true, but as you touched on before, uniformity of moisture across the surface of the putting green as well. And that's not obviously coming from the GS3, but from some other tech he's got there, along out for his greens, but also on his fairways.
Yeah, I believe I would argue with anybody. The two most important instruments, I think the golf course superintendent, manager, assistant, whatever, can have and use on a day-to-day basis would be the combination of a snip meter and a TDR. And then the machine that you could use to dial things in is the roller. The roller tells you everything. The roller can, if you're using a snip meter, and if you use something I called the Morris method, I named it after Mike Morris for determining what your 1 foot range of green speed should be every day. Most courses go 9.5 to 10.5 or 10.5 to 11.5. And if you're dialing in that every day, trying to get into that 1 foot range, it saves you economically. Part of the reason it can save you economically is you can go out and go, oh, wow, we don't even need to mow today. We'll just roll them, which saves a lot of money. Because I still have not heard, maybe I missed it, but I've still not heard of anyone backlapping their roller yet, or changing the blades on the roller yet, or changing the height of roll on the roller yet. A roller is just so much less expensive, and you can dial it in. And then another thing a roller does is it holds more moisture in the soil. Now, I know a whole bunch of people freak out when they hear that because they think, oh my God, compaction, which is the most overused bad word in golf or even turf grass in general. And it's a funny word because it's feared, and it was feared since the dawn again of the 20th century, but really overused. And most of our surfaces now have a lot of a sand base. And for anyone that likes to use the word compaction and worries about compaction, I'd just like to ask you this question: what's the compaction scale? Once you learn what the compaction scale is, come back and tell me. and then we'll, we'll which by the way, I'll tell you, it's between 0 and 2.65 grams per cubic centimeter. That's it.
Yep.
Okay. And it's just overused. And
Mm.
two, it's because of the water moisture retention that little extra gives with rolling, which is mainly just right up by the surface, which is where most of the bacteria is, that gives us all the benefits of the game. And it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
it's been fortunate. It's the greatest machine on a golf course.
Yeah. And look, we're certainly
And by the way,
with it.
I got to say this: when kudos to the USGA who just threw out an article recently about fairway rolling is starting to come into vogue, and I think the only reason that it isn't more in vogue is I think the perfect machine doesn't exist yet. There's some machines out there that work well but are really expensive, from what I understand. There's some machines out there that it's hard on the contours of normal fairways. It's the perfect one still needs to be found, but what research we've done at Michigan State University, we found that rolling fairways, we could reduce mowing fairways if we rolled them more often. Wow. Okay. Again, and that's a good thing. It takes a lot less time to, roll a fairway than to mow it. But then we also found reductions of, localized dry spot, which means that if I take that TDR I use on a green and I use it in a fairway, I'm not sure if anyone's missed this, but conserving water is a big thing right now. and there's a lot more fairway than there is golf green. And rolling fairways is definitely, I think the world's just waiting for the perfect fairway rolling machine, and it'd be awesome.
Well, watch this space, Tom. As you know from our discussions in Phoenix, we've got a fairway roller in the factory at the moment, building up to get your way as well. The Taipan. So using our three smoothing heads in each cassette, we'll have it set up, and hopefully we'll be able to deliver rolling perfection to fairways as well.
I'm looking forward to doing research with it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Just talking about this mow less, roll more, and a good friend of both of ours, Paul Larson, who was over at Royal St George's in the UK, is certainly a big advocate of that. I know at the moment we're doing some stuff with him at the moment over there around this principle, and he's always been looking, I suppose, to he's mainly on fescue based courses at the moment, but the principle remains the same. I suppose it's just the height of the leaf or the length of the leaf at the end of the day, depending on the different grasses you've got. But he's certainly looking to get I think a 5 mil height of cud or leaf length, and still continuing to have that smoothness and trueness coming through. So, really, and especially, well, you've done the winter trial, but we certainly see in cooler climates where, you're taking a mower out on the course, but not getting any clip cut or anything. You're just having the mower go over. That we are now seeing people rolling 4 or 5 times a week, especially in those cooler months. But that's now extending beyond as well. So the roll more, mow less principle is certainly gaining traction out in the industry.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I think I'm. Little history. I was a graduate student, and I went to this is the mid to late 1990s. I'm a graduate student, and I went to a scientific meeting, and it was a moment where all the famous scientists in the United States of America were sitting in a room just talking, standing up and shooting questions at each other. And Dr. Carl Dannyberger fielded a question from someone, and when after he fielded the question, he said, "But you know what I want to know? I want to know who the hell is telling these guys to roll their greens." And I stood up no one knows who the heck I am. I'm a graduate student. And I went, that would be me. And it was a scary thing to do because everyone else was telling people not to do it. And
Mm,
I was telling people, you know, 3 times to 4 times a week. So basically every other day, right?
mm,
Do it every other day. That's all you need to do. And I've basically, through all these years of research, modified that to the minimum you should do it is every other day.
mm,
To the maximum you should do it, and it's really my preference, is do it twice every day.
mm.
And I know people, Jason Griffin, London Hunt Club in Ontario, Canada. He's a double roller,
Yep.
and just swears by it, and it's beautiful. And it's a good way to go. And you can do things like what Paul Larson, who
Mm,
I've been very fortunate to meet. He's a wonderful human being.
absolutely.
Um, when he let me onto his golf course, when um, he actually snuck me on the course because the Royal and Ancient didn't want him to roll in preparation for the Open um, at Royal St. George's, and I called a person by the name of Ray Duffy, who owned
Yep.
Tru-Turf, and he sent Tru-Turf roller for Paul and I to do some research there at the course. And Paul's just a firm believer in rolling, and
Mm,
a lot of it he's now doing the research,
mm.
and what a personality. and, uh,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
uh, and now that you told me he's still doing research, you just gave me a reason to fly over there
Mm.
and go chat with him again. Because
Yeah, well, he's now down. I think it's Lydd Golf Club, which is down the southeast of England, but also working across a number of golf courses down there, helping out and imparting his knowledge of course preparation around those courses. So certainly a very well respected voice in the industry over in the UK and globally as well.
well deserved. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But so the top 10 reasons, I suppose we talked about the customer satisfaction, the height of the cut. What other items do you think that are just as relevant today? Or we talked about maybe 16. Or is there any sneak peek of what you think might be added to the list over the journey?
Oh wow. Um, when I think of the list in general, the one that really makes me laugh, and it's only because I've been involved in this so long, is the
Mm,
fact that people, and this is just a common practice now. Everyone rolls after they aerify now,
yep.
and 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 because of that word compaction,
Mm,
no one would even have dreamt of doing that before, and it's
mm,
just a standard practice.
yep.
Again, what does it do? It helps close the holes better. It helps make
Mm,
it smoother, customer satisfaction. Um, and by closing the holes faster, if the longer those holes stay open, the drier the soil gets, and the drier the soil gets, the more chance of fungi causing disease. I
mm,
mean, in the soil.
yep.
So that's literally a practice that is, again, good for customer satisfaction, good for decreasing possible pesticide inputs, keeping disease down.
Mm,
Just an incredible practice. Then the use of TDRs with rolling, everyone knowing their volumetric moisture content they want. That just puts it all together. For
mm,
fairways, what I'm looking forward to looking at on greens, besides less, we've documented less weeds when we
mm,
are rolling fairways or when we are rolling greens. So if we're going to actually go out and roll fairways on a daily basis, we might see less, and that literally makes sense.
mm,
Um, when I first discovered less weed growth with rolling, my first thought was, "Wow, this is weird." But then, as you think about it, what's the number one plant in the world that can tolerate traffic? And it's turf grass.
mm, mm,
And rolling is a form of traffic. And the more we're rolling, We've seen, the dandelions die out. It's just crabgrass, quackgrass. So that's something that I'll be looking more at, to see if we get more reports from people along that line. I certainly have data that shows it on greens, and I have it on lawn height of cut. But we haven't actually tracked any of that on fairways yet. So that's something we'll be looking at when I get your new unit.
Absolutely. Well, the fairways of today, in some ways, are the greens of yesterday, based on your comments of earlier. So
I couldn't have said that better. Would you make a shirt like that and send it to me so I could wear it around? Because
I'll get one made up and send over to you. I'll make sure I trademark it first. But
here's a good one. Prior to World War II, most of the golf courses in the United States were country clubs, right? And there are public courses, but they were mainly country clubs. And then, after World War II, golf grows in popularity basically because of President Eisenhower, who led the World War II war. General Eisenhower becomes president. He's famous for golfing, but not only golfing, but golfing poorly. He's not a good golfer. So everyone else decides they can golf too. And you get all the way to today, and today the courses that are being built are what? More and more public courses, resort courses, and country clubs are kind of going the other way. And the reason for that is because back in the day, before you're getting into the 80s, the 90s, up until the beginning of this century, the maintenance of golf courses has changed considerably. And rolling, and the first domino to fall was, and it's because of rolling, public courses could have greens that played just as well as country clubs. It changed everything. And now it's like, oh wow, we could, maybe we can't make all the flower gardens look as nice or all these other things look as nice, but that putting surface is what really drives the end of the day, and those fairways being nice and smooth, and we've come a long way, and it's good, and it's there's two things that are impossible not to notice with golf right now. It's booming.
Oh, no doubt.
It's booming, and water's an issue. And
no doubt.
The funny thing is, rolling is going to help with both of those things. It just is. Absolutely. It's an awesome machine.
Yeah. Well, look, no, you're right. The spotlight certainly for all fine turf grass facilities these days is sustainability. It's people say it's a buzzword, but it's a reality out there.
Yes.
Water's going to be continuing with whichever side you sit on around the climate change or the cyclical nature of the climate. Water is a key requirement still for golf courses to be able to survive. But then it's also the cost, and whilst golf is booming and there's more money being tipped into the industry at the moment, it's still about how do you, for people on the course, is how they maximise their budgets to ensure they're putting the best quality product out at all times. So, we love to think of ourselves as sustainable from a company as well in relation to the product we put out, but it's continuing to be a very relevant piece of the puzzle around how do you look at creating a sustainable product.
Yeah, it is, and we, and when I say me and you, but I mean other researchers as well. I welcome them to do some research with rolling in fairways and use TDRs and see what we can save. People are paying, a lot of money to irrigate golf courses, and every gallon you can save is saving money. And it's not just about saving money, but it's basically being good stewards of the planet as we carry it forward, and leave it better than we found it. And that's the challenge. And I suspect we're going to do just like our forefathers. Am I allowed to say that? Our foreparents? I don't know.
You can say whatever you want here, Thom.
We'll do a good job and make things a better world for everyone, I'm sure. And
Absolutely.
rolling is, it's just funny. I mean, it sounds almost like BS, but rolling is a big part of the entire piece of that puzzle with water conservation, especially
Yeah.
if we're going to get into the fairways.
Yeah, no doubt at all. Well, Thom, I've taken up a lot of your time. I know you're looking after your son there as well. It's always
Oh,
great
yeah.
to catch up with you. And we certainly look forward to continuing to work with you and support you in relation to this research on rolling and obviously the preparation of these fine turf grass areas. And once again, really appreciate your time, Thom. Thank you very much for being involved today.
I've really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that we could find the time with a 16-hour time difference to make this work.
Yes, as people
Thanks so
probably see,
much.
the sun's coming up over here as it's starting to head down over your way. So,
It's starting to head down here. I got to go out and barbecue soon. I got to cook for
oh, very
people.
nice.
Thanks so much, Nick. I really enjoyed it.
Good on you, Thom. Thank you.
Bye bye.